Hey guys, I've had another fairly busy week, and this is why this episode's been slightly delayed. I do apologise. So I had more meetings last week. As I mentioned on last week's episode, I've launched a crowdfunding campaign, but doesn't look like it's going to, doesn't look like it's going to sort of survive. So this is a problem, but I'm also having meetings later this week, and we'll see how it all goes. But that's, if it fails, well, that's the way it goes. I'm also starting to think about another project which won't need a lot of budget and things like that. That's just a bit of a problem. But I've had some other things going, and I thought I'd feature that for this episode this week. So what happened last week? Well, actually, it was actually the week before. I got an email from a mate of mine, and he told me that his wife had died, and that was really bad. But he asked me if I'd like to do some filming because he wants to launch a trust under her name, which is going to be a good thing. And so I had to do that last Friday. On last week's episode, I mentioned that my main camera, my XA30 camera from Canon, I'd had to send it away because there was a problem. And basically what I can show you is, as you can see, I got it back. After the meeting last Monday, I had to send an email to Canon and say, look, is there any way we can try and get this thing back by Thursday? And they got it back for me and they fixed it. It actually turned out, people will remember, this is the problem I was having. So here's some filming from the other week when I was at Ben Whiting's event. And here we go. I focus on this and I zoom in, and then it just comes back out, as you can see. So that was a problem. Well, what it turned out to be is this little button here. This is the main button's up here. What happens is, and I'll bring this closer. So these are our main zoom buttons. So you go this way and come back. So these are the main buttons. And what actually happened was, basically that whole button, there was a problem. So they replaced that, sent it back, and I got it back on Thursday, which meant I was able to use it on Friday, which was great. Because of the type of event it was, I had to have some good clothing. And here's a photo in the morning. I was waiting for the bus, and here's my equipment and everything sitting next to me. So there you go. That was a big day, but it's the way it is. I think it's important to know, and to remember, I've lost both of my parents. So my mum died at the end of 2007, and my dad died in 2011. And during the day, I sort of remembered them as well. But I think, everyone knows that that's going to happen. So I think it's important to have a great event, and then they certainly did. They had the funeral was great, and they had a lot of talking and a bit of singing, and it was really good. And I think the idea about having this trust is going to be great, but that's going to be a few months away. So, but at least I've got all the filming, and I've checked it all out, and it looks great. So there we go. Okay. So on Friday, I had an email asking if I'd like to do an interview, and I couldn't do it on Friday. So on Saturday, I was interviewed by a journalist from the Age newspaper. And then on Sunday's newspaper, here I am on page 3. So I thought that was a bit funny. So there you go. So there's a bit of stuff. But so you may remember that I've featured Opal Ocean recently. Here's Alex and Nadev. They've been doing a lot of here in Burke Street. But they were having a bit of an event in Fitzroy at Bar Open. So I went there, and I didn't have all my camera. I must say I had a few drinks. As you can see, here's a photo of me and the boys there. This is at the start of the night. It was a bit of a relaxing thing. I did take a little bit of filming. I always got at least some. I got my little camera with me. But it was a really great night, and I didn't get home till about 4 o'clock the next morning. So it was, there you go. That's the way it goes some days. But it was really nice. There wasn't a heap of people there, but there was sort of everyone there enjoyed it, and the guys did a great job. They really did. So I would have to tell you, if you want to have a really a bit of a different night, because these guys don't sing; they just play the guitars, but it all sounds really awesome. It's really unique. I think they do a great job, and if you want to have a bit of an interesting night, I would suggest you go and check them out. They're awesome. The other thing I mentioned on last week's episode was that I was looking for a bigger camera bag. I've been thinking for a while now that I was wanting to get a bigger one, and I had a look at a few different options. These were some of the options I looked at, but I started thinking that maybe even those bags weren't going to be quite big enough, and just by accident I walked into one of the outdoor businesses here in Melbourne, and that have a lot of bush packs. They have packs, they have tents and things like that. They have all sorts of equipment, and I found a bag that was a lot bigger than I was sort of looking for. But the problem, and the problem why I was looking for a bigger bag, here's the main issue I've got. This little holder here, which is where the shotgun mic goes on. As you can see, it's just bolted in by two screws, and that's great. To put it in my other bag, what I had to do was I had to undo these screws, take the whole thing off. My fear was, and I've done this twice, I've dropped the screws and had to go back and find them. So losing screws was a problem. I'm also worried that the amount of times this thing's on and off, on and off, on and off, that sooner or later something's going to screw up, either with the screws, or something will go wrong, and I don't like it. So I'd love to be able to leave that on. And what I'll show you in a minute is I got this bigger bag. I put some foam in it, cut up some areas. Look, it's not as high quality as you might be expecting. I didn't have a lot of time to work on it. It was a bit of a rush. I did this Thursday afternoon, like I mentioned before. I had the important filming to do on Friday, but I got this thing set up, and I'll show you how that works. And this is what I come up with. This is the High Country Recon Bag from Aussie Disposals. Retails for about $99, which is not badly priced. As you can see, it's a fairly large bit of kit. I've been able to deck this out with all my main camera equipment. So I've got my XA30 camera in there with a shotgun mic. I've got my audio kit with the zoom, and I've also got like 10-meter XLR lead. I've got spare batteries, some other things in there, and I've even got some communication equipment. The only thing I didn't put in the bag is the tripod. That was basically to keep weight down, and this thing's there's enough to carry around in one bag, I think. So just having the tripod separate's a thing. Also like the fact that I can kick off, rock up somewhere, and as you'll see, it can be set up pretty quickly. So we'll just and off we go. This is actually this tripod's a Aero 4 tripod from Benro. Nice bit of kit. It's an upgrade. I previously used the Aero 2. That's what I'm using on my little camera. I've got the little Canon HF R706 sitting on top of the Aero 2, and works nicely. The first thing, or the most important component of this whole bag, was that what I wanted to be able to do is I wanted to be able to carry my camera already set up with a shotgun mic attached, so I didn't have to go screwing those screws in and putting the mic holder on and then taking it off at the end of the day, or sometimes I take it off and put it on 3-4 times in a day. So I was worried about that wearing out. The great thing with this is, bang, there's the camera all ready to go, and whack it straight on the tripod and lock it into place, and now I'm ready to go. And that's what I wanted, so I don't have to muck around with these screws. There's also times when I've rocked up at media conferences and things like that, some of the protests for instance, where suddenly these things happen. This way I'll just be able to rock up on site, get the camera out, and my setup time is probably down from It's probably maybe a couple of minutes to, you know, probably 20 seconds or something like that. So that can be important. What I'll do now is I'll show you how I've decked this thing out. Alright, so this is how I've kitted it out. As you can see, the main camera sits in there with the microphone on, and it's all pretty well looked after. This is high density foam, not as quite as high density as what I wanted, but it's what I could get on the day at short notice. A couple of things. I've got people might wonder why I've got the Larry orange fluoro fleece jacket thing. Sometimes I'm filming in and around traffic and things like that. It can be a requirement of some of the film permits that I get, that the crew have to be decked out in gear, including myself. So I like to have that sitting there ready to go. This is just a bag of little clips and things like that. I've got some signage that I can stick on the tripod to demonstrate whose gear it is and that sort of stuff. So and I've got some nice fluoro reflective rope there as well for when I'm filming at night. So I can get the camera straight out, come straight out of the bag, and like I said, it's all ready to go. Other things, I've got the remote, we've got spare battery. I've got another groove here. I'm about to get a second spare battery, so that's in the winds. So I thought I'd cut a spot there. I've got my light, and this little box here actually has spare SD cards, as well as some spare batteries for my stills camera, which is my Nikon AW110. I've also got a spare mobile phone battery there in there, and it works as long as I remember to charge the thing. I was recently caught out with a flat mobile phone battery. Thought, great, I got a spare one sitting in here, and I'd forgotten to charge it, so there you go. In this little side pocket here, I've got my 10 metre XLR lead, which is handy. Had to use that the other day. There were some issues with the PA gear. I wasn't supplying the PA gear, but someone else was. It turned out they had a dodgy XLR lead, so lucky one of us had a good one. This is actually my my audio kit with my zoom, different microphones, remote. This is a bracket, for instance, to go on top of a microphone stand, so you can put the Rode shotgun mic on. Some spare batteries for the zoom. These things are a little bit battery hungry when you start driving them, but they're good, great bit of kit. And I've got the little wind socks to try and stop the wind, and I've got a dynamic mic there. And to give you an idea, this is a shot from a few weeks ago at one of the protests, and we were trying to do some interviews, but we had some music being played, and I couldn't get the rights to use the music. So,
hi, my name's Jen. I'm new to Melbourne. I moved here for a long distance relationship, which turned out to be riddled with domestic violence.
It was a bit difficult, and this is where we ended up having Jen, it was, talking about her time being homeless. And I mean, at least the audio came out nice and clear, and we didn't get any copyright issues. So that's why I carry a dynamic mic. That can be handy. Just zip this guy back up. The other things I've got in here, public liability insurance, just in case, and some paperwork, talent releases and the like. So sometimes when I do interviews, I have to get written permission from people. So there you go. And then we get to, I'll just reach this there. This is where I got a little bit tricky with everything, because you actually lift this out, and I've got some radios sitting with all the microphones. I've got the charger, everything. Again, people might wonder why, especially when I'm running on my own, why I need to have a radio. There are times when I've actually been deployed where if I'd had two radios, it would have been handy. Sometimes I've got to ask someone, can you go across the road so I can check, what it looks like? Or I might want to send someone down a bit of a track and say, can you walk back? I could have used this the other day. I didn't think about it quick enough, but so it can be handy. So I've got that in there. So that's what I've decked out. A couple of issues, and I hate to say it, but there are a couple of issues. Also in here I've got all my chargers, leads for charging the camera. I've got a 240 volt adapter to plug the spare battery into, and I've just got all my associated leads over here, HDMI, USB, whatever other leads come with the whole kit. So unfortunately, one of my main problems one of the main things is being a big bag. The problem is it's a big bag. It's a little bit. I wouldn't want to walk too far with it. The other day was good. I got dropped off by a taxi. Had to walk. I don't know, maybe 50 meters, 100 meters. It wasn't bad. There's a lot of circumstances where this will work out great. Like the other day was cool. I could set up on site, have the bag sitting there, open it all up, and just go back and get all my gear, and it was pretty safe and it was all good. Some of the running stuff I've done, like some of the protests and what have you, I'm not sure how to work. It's going to be interesting to see. I've normally also got my backpack with my laptop and things like that, so we'll just have to see what happens. But that's what I've set up for the moment. The other cool thing is I've managed to leave this top thing completely empty, so I can put a drink in there, or still got some barley sugars from the other day. There we go. That's my camera bag for the moment. We'll see if it gets changed down the line. I reckon something about 2/3 would be perfect. But anyway, there you go. Alright guys, that's basically it.